by telling us your name and talking about where you're currently living.
Absolutely. So I'm Amanda Carlson, and I'm currently living in Temple, Texas, which is a small, medium-sized city, around 85,000 people, about 45 minutes north of Austin. We've been here about 2 years now.
Great. What about your experience in Temple made you want to do this interview with us?
So I actually work for our Economic Development Corporation, and part of our mission is to attract talent and workers to live and work in Temple, Texas. And so I've actually used Best Places a lot when trying to find data sets, not only on what Temple has to offer, but how we compare to other towns and cities across the country. So if we're talking to someone, let's say in New York City, I can say, well, your cost of living goes this much further here, or, these are the school ratings compared to where you are. And so as I was watching your videos and I saw that you were taking interest in being on the videos, I jumped right on it, and I'm excited to talk about Temple.
Great. What are some positives, some things about Temple that you really like?
Yeah, so we're outsiders. We're not native to the area. My husband and I are from the state of Maine, and we got sent to Fort Hood, Texas by the military back in, I think it was 2015. And when we first got here, I don't think either of us had ever been to Texas before. It was a bit of a culture shock, and where we're from back in Maine, has like this old historic downtown that's being revitalized into shops and businesses and apartments, and had this really tight-knit community feel. And we were really missing that, being on a post, being in Fort Hood. And as we were in Killeen, which is the town that's right next to the military station, we were there for, I think, 4 or so years, until 30 minutes away is Temple, Texas. We decided to go visit, and we're just shocked that this was right in our back door or backyard, and we hadn't even adventured it yet. So Temple has a gorgeous historic downtown where it really was dormant until I think 2014, 2015. And these past almost 10 years, they have just put so much revitalization into it. There's a hotel that was built in the 1920s that's been closed since, I think, 1978, that's about to reopen as apartments and like a community space. So all this gorgeous Art Deco architecture, and just being in a community that is taking care of itself, has this downtown that kind of reminds us of home, but is in the centralized area between Dallas and Austin, while still feeling small. Just sold us immediately. And my husband out processed. I said, well, I know you're no longer in the Army, but we're staying in the area because this is a pretty great place. And I don't want to go anywhere else right now.
Nice. If someone were to come visit you, like for the day or overnight, are there like local things that you would take them that they absolutely have to see?
Oh, absolutely. We've actually been hosts to my in-laws a couple times, and I usually put together a little itinerary. We have a gorgeous railroad museum with, I think it's an old steamer engine that you can actually like climb up and pretend you're the conductor. We've brought them to the downtown area to show them the architecture. I think we have 80 plus miles worth of walking trails. So we've brought them on a couple of those with our dogs. So just all of like the charming little historic places that are around here, we love to take them to. And there's surprisingly a really great number of local delicious food spots. So, twist our arms. We have to bring them to all of our favorite places whenever they visit, and really just explore what the area has to offer.
Great. On the flip side, are there some negatives or things you wish you could change about Temple?
I mean, any place isn't going to be perfect. And I think right now, since it's growing at such a rapid rate, I think since 2020, the population has grown by 13%. You feel those growing pains just a little bit. And so having the services meet the population and, try to catch up, and everything right now, there's with development means construction. So there's a lot of that going on. So I'm looking forward to the end of that and really having these places finished and having, more space for community gatherings and opportunities. I think that's what I would change, but it's something that I would rather have to go through to get the awesome end result than not have it at all. So it's bearable.
Nice. Overall, would you recommend someone else move to Temple?
Absolutely. I mean, it depends on what what draws you to a place. So what I appreciate about Temple, Texas might not necessarily be what the next person appreciates. I like kind of a slower pace of living. I like being near big cities and nightlife and, big exciting events, but that's not where I want to live. But again, I don't want to live in the middle of nowhere where I have to drive like 45 minutes to the grocery store. So having a place like Temple that, while it has attractions and things of interest and outdoor spaces, you don't feel crowded and overwhelmed, but there's still quick accessibility to anything that you might want. So I think if someone's looking for a really family-friendly place, some place with great community, tight-knit, but still wants to be close to the bigger things, Temple is the perfect answer.
Nice. And you said that you came from elsewhere in Texas, but where else have you lived, like across the country?
Yeah, so we lived in Maine most of our lives, and then on the spur of the moment, my husband is a ski and snowboard instructor. We decided to move to Denver, Colorado. We had a couple of family members out there, and they have some mountains out there. So we figured if you want to, do this full time, let's go where the mountains are. And we were there 9 months when we kind of realized that the big city wasn't for us. And with big city goes big cost of living. And we were still pretty young. We were in our early 20s, and we said, okay, well, we need to change course a little bit. And that's when he joined the military. And then we got sent to Texas. So really, it's only been a handful of places that we've moved together.
Nice. Between all of those moves, which one was the most dramatic, like the biggest shift?
Ooh, I'd probably say the one to Denver was the most dramatic, only because we got rid of everything that we had, and we only took what would fit in our 2 compact vehicles, including our 2 cats. And we moved out there without jobs, without having a lease signed, just, on sheer hope and optimism. So that was probably the most dramatic. But I mean, on the flip side, I have been most pleasantly surprised by Texas. I think a lot in our media, and I was definitely not victim, but just this is how my viewpoint was. I was like, we're going to get to Texas and it's going to be nothing but tumbleweeds and shootouts at noon down at the old corral. And when we got here, it's like, oh, it's actually really green, and there's, a gorgeous flower season in the spring. And, everyone's nice, and there are not shootouts at the old corral at noon every day. And so once we got over that shock, I think to us, that was the most dramatic, that we would actually enjoy being here and not wanting to go back to the East Coast when his obligations with the military were over.
Nice. And do you have any advice or tips for people who might be making a similar move in the future?
Definitely visit. We were going to move to before you move there. It's very exciting to just move somewhere sight unseen, like we did with Denver, and I guess like we did here with Texas as well. But I think especially visiting someplace and really understanding which neighborhoods are the best fit for you. Because when you're looking at places online, of course, they're going to show you, the best of the best, what they have in certain angles and, certain shots. But in any community, you're going to have distinct neighborhoods. And so being able to go there at different times during the day and saying, well, what does this neighborhood look like at night? What is it like during the day? Is this someplace where I could feel comfortable staying for long term? I think is super important. And I know I didn't do that any place we moved, and would probably have been a smart move on my point.
Excellent. Well, those were all my questions. Thanks for so much for being here today. Do you have anything else to share
Great.
before we sign off?
Oh goodness, I don't think so. I'm just excited to share Temple, Texas and chat with you a little bit because we love using best places. So to, reach out to your community is pretty exciting for us.
Excellent. Yeah, so glad I could present this opportunity. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. You too, Alex.
All right,
Thank you.
bye.